shortly. Tony the Gent at 11 to 8, really well backed against from 15 to 8 and 10 to 1 and bigger the rest. Let's take a look at a few of them in the paddock.
We're in the Predrie ahead of our third race. It's the Crown Plaza Dundalk Racing Stay Claimer over 7 furlongs, and the Dundalk mainstay is the first horse we're going to look at. Short price favourite, rightly so as well. Number 2, Yufton, a winner of 7 claimers, 11 races in his career, and he's been trained by 7 different trainers. Started off William Haggis. This horse back in his day as a 3-year-old finished 5th in the St James's Palace Stakes behind none other than Kingman. Then went on to Johnny Murta, Roger Charlton. He was with Johnny Butler for a brief period of time. Johnny Feehan, Aidan McGuinness. He'd one start for Noel Kelly, won a claimer, and then was subsequently claimed by Dennis Hogan. Joe Dial is on board. Disappointing the last day when well beaten by San Andreas of Joseph O'Brien, who was an impressive winner that day. And before that, he was 4.5 lengths behind in 7th, behind War Hero of Aidan McGuinness's. As I say, he comes way out on top of these in ratings. He's £17 better off with Tony the Gent, for both of them running off level weights before you take into account Joy Sheridan's £7 claim and Tony the Gent. But Yufton, it looks like it's a formality for him really in this, to be fair, to continue his good run. He's a 9-year-old now by Invincible Spirit, and he's been a great advertisement for these claimers. As I say, he's been with so many different trainers over the last couple of seasons, and as I say, he is a sharp price favourite, and rightly so. Directly behind him is his biggest danger in ratings, number 1, Tony the Gent, who at his peak was rated around 98, I think, if memory serves me right, and he was a 4-time winner. But Tony the Gent is a 6-time winner. And I think, if memory serves me right, this horse could have finished 4th in the Round Tower Stakes in his 2-year-old career at the Curry. He was formerly with Jar Lines. He was a winner here 3 runs ago, back in early part of February time, and finished 2nd. Just got touched off by Billy Fairplay here. Over 6 furlongs on his most recent start. Those two, it looks like it's between those two. We just pan back to one more actually, and another horse that's been a good servant of connection. Number 8, Northern Surprise from the Tim Doyle yard, the mount of Billy Lee. And Northern Surprise provided Tim and Claire Doyle's daughter, Claire, leading up today with her first winner of her career, Emma Doyle, here last season. But Northern Surprise, he's a 4-time winner here at Dundalk, was rated a lot higher back in his day, but he's now running off a mark of 41. Billy Lee on board, hard to see him troubling the top 2 in the market. As I say, Yufton looks a formality for him, and his biggest danger, stable companion, number 1, Tony the Gent.
Good stuff, thank you, Kevin. Let's focus on the favourite Yufton, who has already won 11 times, 7 all-weather wins and 7 Dundalk wins. Let's take a look at one of the better performances from Yufton around here, Martin.
Yufton, he's part of the furniture of Dundalk. He's pretty solid. He's just travelling in 5th place here, I think.
This is actually his last win, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In December.
Yeah, he's a very no-nonsense, straightforward. He always runs his best. He always tries his best every time, and he's been a good servant to many different trainers. But you see him challenging here on the outside, and he puts this to bed, wins quite nicely. I think in terms of this race, it's set up for him really. He's rated 93. He's rated higher than anything in the race, and he's effectively £17 well in with his nearest rival, who's probably his stablemate Tony the Gent,
who is now the favourite, by the way. Big shift in the betting, 5 to 4, Tony the Gent. Yufton 11 to 8, Stamford Authority at 8 to 1, it's 10 to 1, and bigger the rest. Tony the Gent, who many would have thought he was an unlucky second last time out.
A little bit unlucky. He got squeezed a little bit for room early on, but he settled into a position. Well, the market speaks volumes, but on paper he doesn't look like he'll be able to beat Yufton, but we'll find out.
We definitely will find out with the last couple going forwards. Quick word from Kev.
Yes, well backed. I didn't see that coming, to be fair. Tony the Gent, I thought Yufton would be very hard to beat, but 2 of them coming out of the same yard. Obviously one is working a little bit better than the other maybe. Let's get up to Justin for a claim, our third of the day.
And they're off. Level enough break. Yufton just having to be woken up in the early strides, having just been a little bit slowly into stride, but the main lady and Scott McCullough is one of the first to show, with Glenmore and Willie Byrne racing second. Stamp Authority moves up on the outside now for Luke McAteer to take closer order and move into second spot as they continue down the back straight. Tony the Gent races 4 with My Lark 5 on that one's outside. They're followed on the inside rail then by the pink and white jacket of KG. Next in the field then races Ark and Echo on the inside of Pegasus Bridge. They're being followed as they approach the straight by Yufton on the inside of Northern Surprise. So approaching the halfway point and racing out of the back straight towards the turn into the straight, the Stamp Authority and Luke McAteer move up on the outside now to take over from the main lady in second. 2 to 3 lengths then to find Tony the Gent and Joey Sheridan third on the outside of Glenmore. My Lark tracks those into the straight, with on the inside KG. They're followed by Ark and Echo. Yufton will have to have a little bit of luck in running behind those, and is not getting much of it at the moment. As they race down the straight, they've got less than 2 furlongs to race, and Stamp Authority goes on, being challenged now on the outside by Tony the Gent. Yufton chases those with My Lark on the outside, Glenmore, and on the inside the main lady racing down inside the final furlong, and Tony the Gent goes for home for Joey Sheridan, goes on by 2 to 3 lengths. My Lark in second, Yufton now in the clear in third, but has a bit to do. Well inside the final furlong, it's Tony the Gent who's out in front by 2 to 3 and is not going to relinquish the advantage. Tony the Gent from Yufton in second, My Lark is third. Finishing well for 4 was Northern Surprise ahead of Stamp Authority.
Yes, as I said, somebody knew more than what we all did, and obviously the money was right, and it's come for Tony the Gent. Always travelled well up handy, often different proposition, was slow out of the gates, always behind the bridle, got caught for room just when trying to get into a challenging position. But as I say, the money came for Yufton, and very well supported just before the off, and he's duly obliged under Joy Sheridan. Just pick him up here, sorry, Tony the Gent. Money came from in draws before the off, and he duly obliges. Pick him up turning into the straight here. Stamp Authority, a 4-time winner, just starts to give way under Luke McAteer. Joy Sheridan claiming 7 on Tony the Gent, who was up handy all the way, totally the opposite to Yufton, who missed a kick and got into a clear run and has won going away in the end. Yufton just had to be snatched up for a couple of strides when coming for his run, but as I say, Tony the Gent was meeting Yufton, and if it was in a handicap, on very bad terms here today, even before Joy Sheridan took the 7 off. I just picked him up here from the start. Yufton slow out of the gates, while Tony the Gent was totally the opposite. He's bounced out quickly. Joy Sheridan happy just to sit in behind the 2 leaders and get a lead in for 4th there at that stage. Yufton is not even in shot at the moment. Now he's second last. He's one behind him on Northern Surprise. But Stamp Authority sitting upsides in front with the main lady, 2 of the lower rated horses in it. The main lady still a maiden on her 6th time of asking. It's a lowly rated 51. And Glenmore then on the inside back in 3rd, and Tony the Gent a couple of lengths off the 2 horses in front, sitting upsides Glenmore. As you see, Yufton just a bit behind the bridle and not really travelling at that stage, but Stamp Authority starts to kick on now. Luke McAteer has been slapped down the shoulders to turn in just to try and stretch them. But Joey Sheridan, if he'd have backed Tony the Gent, you never had a moment's worry whatsoever. Now Yufton under Joe Dial tries to weave his way through, but it's all over. Tony the Gent gets a backhander from Joy Sheridan just inside the furlong pole and sends him on to win. Going away, My Lark has run well also under Alan Pearce, just to be caught for second on the run in. She's only won once. That's her 19th start, and she was running off a mark of official handicap mark of 35. And as I say, the money that came for Tony the Gent was right, and he's won quite snugly in the end from stable companion Yufton back in second.
And if you're able to follow the market in the last few seconds, you might have taken the clues that Tony the Gent was going to beat Yufton, but my goodness, they've had it right all here, haven't they?
It looks that way, doesn't it? We said before the race that the market speaks volumes, and just before the off, Tony the Gent was well backed. It looked a two-horse race on paper. It looked Yufton and Tony the Gent, and it didn't look like Yufton would be beaten, but he was. Tony the Gent came, I mean, he finished strongly. He's obviously been doing something well at home. It looked like a battle of the Joeys, Joey Sheridan and Joe Doyle, but it was Joey Sheridan who come out on top.
Yes, he was on top. Tony the Gent. I can't remember what the opening show was, but my goodness, he went off at 10-11. Tony the Gent. I'm not too sure how big he was, but Yufton we know was 10-11 at 6-4. Tony the Gent was 6-4. Look at they flip-flopped, but the right two did flip-flop, and they finished in that order. My Lark back in third at 66-1. So there you go. That was the 2:30 race 3. Tony the Gent, the winner. Gamble landed.
So what is backing and laying on the Betfair exchange? Well, see this couple, I'm betting on them.